this presentation is to give you an idea of the thousands of possibilities available to you to look at your ceramic production as a means of presenting beautiful experiences visually with ceramics and food. So the idea that ceramics is functional and thinking about that function as you make your ceramics to present something in a way that is both visually inspiring and perhaps excites your hungers as well for good food. And so the assignment you have for the final in this class is you need to compose a ceramic form or vessel to be presented with food in such a way that if you were to put it down on a table at a dinner party, it would be the centerpiece. It would command attention visually as well as perhaps gastronomically, that it would be a tremendous moment of inspiration, beauty, amusement, however you wish that to be. And we'll see many, many examples of that. Starting with this piece, which was the #1 prize winner in a competition in Jingdezhen, China, where a very progressive, forward-thinking ceramic center called the Pottery Workshop has annually a competition of emerging potters, and that's a very important idea. But they invite people to enter this competition for the chance to win first, second, and third prize in their ability to compose with clay and food. And it's quite significant. In Jingdezhen, China, ceramics is kind of king. It's one of the main industries of this city of 4 million. And there are many, many established ceramic artists. So for a young ceramic artist, it's very difficult to establish a foothold in the commercial world. And one of the ways you can do that is by winning this, this competition. And this is the winning entry for that. Subtle and unique, the very kind of architectural quality of the ceramic form. You can see it's a pure cylinder as a kind of a casserole dish. And one of the radical things that this artist did is created a beautiful porcelain vessel, which is what this area is known for, their porcelain, and then did the unthinkable, took a piece of stoneware and turned that into a very rough hewn handle, creating a contrast of material and a contrast in form, the pot being very architectural and very precise, and the handle, the knob, being very spontaneous, rugged, and kind of freeform, asymmetrically natural. And then the food itself, using a beautiful trilogy, and as you can see, also many mixed materials. These dumplings are on some beautiful sesame rice crackers, and then on a bamboo mat. And then beneath that, some foliage, some green leaves and some grapes, all of this presented in a way while leaving lots of empty open space. You can see the vessel as well. So the compositional qualities of this are quite lovely. The use of 3, the use of not, there are really 2 ways that this approach, or what I've noticed that people will do in this competition, in these kinds of ideas. They'll either do this, which maybe might be the idea of ma, the idea of space, the place between the notes and music that allow music to exist. And in this case, leaving space for the ceramic form to be present in the composition, along with a beautiful composition of the food itself. So that's one approach. Another approach is what we call, I would call the horror vacui, the fear of empty space, in which case everything is chock-a-block full. And we'll see many examples, good examples of both of those approaches. So here is the #1 award winner of this competition. And see if I can move this forward here. Here is the distinguished panel of judges here. I'm in the center. We are the judges for this competition. To my right is Masakazu Kusakabe, my longtime collaborator from Japan. We worked together for about 15 years, and this was towards the end of our collaboration. We had just published our book together and were invited to China for that reason. And you can see we got very serious looks on our faces because there's a lot of people counting on this. Remember, the person who wins this award could make significant progress in their career. And then to my left was the director, Eric, who was the director of the Pottery Center in Jingdezhen, Pottery Workshop, the Pottery Workshop. So this is the Ceramics Festival the Festival on Food and Ceramics. And here are the many contestants, the long table. There were 35 entries, and these are people looking at the entries before they are brought up. And then literally each one is brought up to the stage for judging. And here you can see a young woman, a young girl looking at what became the winning entry. And you can see the winning entry also has a side plate composition there. And in the foreground, an example of the horror vacui, the fill the whole space approach to things. So we'll look at some of these one at a time, but this is what you get to do. You're kind of entering your own competition. What can you make to present food for the final? So let's take a look at some of these. This was one of my favorites, and it's one of the things that's kind of interesting about these competitions is that there are 3 judges, and I was the only one that liked this one. The platter that everything is on is actually the lid of what is called a sagger. It's a shelf and a container to protect pieces inside a wood firing. And so it's quite a lovely, I thought it was a beautiful use of a kind of a found object. And then lovely little teapot that was wood fired. And of course I love that. And a little cup for the tea. And then those little pumpkins are actually molded compressed pâtés, little vegetable pâtés, all on these leaves of this beautiful morning glory flower. So I thought the presentation was stunning, really beautiful, but I was the only one that really was a champion for that. I believe I was able to persevere and get an honorable mention. This is something that we saw lots of red colored foods, because one of the most popular glazed solutions in Jingdezhen, China, is a porcelain covered with a beautiful celadon. And this is a lovely blue celadon glaze. And then crab being, the contrast between orange and blue is they're complementary colors. And so they work beautifully together. And here you can see a little crab, addition. And this was also a unique idea. Well, it wasn't that a unique. Several entries came along with a vase with a flower or a little arrangement in it. There's often also some tea, and that's what you can see. It's China. Tea is king for sure. And I love those 3 little peppers also just ornamenting the plate. Lovely, lovely job. Here is an entry. This is one entry, and you can see they tried just about everything. Of course, there's the horror vacui approach where the plate is barely visible behind this wonderful just plethora of food. And there's some kind of sesame chicken in the center, some soybeans, and then surrounded by some cucumbers and carrots all dancing around like some kind of Disney animation. And smaller versions of that sort of kind of symmetrical and kind of centrifugal kind of design, like a spin painting. And then in the upper left-hand corner, you can actually see a composition made with cutting of food. I'll go back for a second. You can see upper left, there's a real kind of composition illustrating a picture with food. And we'll see some other examples of that, quite astonishing, later in the slideshow. Here is a lovely idea. I think this was a great effort. You may not know this reference, but these 3 pear fruits are presented in a position that is made famous by a famous ink wash painting. And so that was a great concept, but the actual ceramic bowl is very poorly made. That you can see into the foot and see that extra kind of little canal around the side. That's a very beginning throwing. So it really didn't have much of a chance of being taken seriously, but the visual concept was extremely sophisticated and smart. Here is something that we can learn from. Again, you can see the hora vacui concept is filling the vessel completely, but also you can see a really playful and wonderful engaging in proportions. So there are three thrown bowls, and each one is on a different height of foot, and the foot or stand is thrown separately and then attached. So the largest bowl is on the shortest foot, and then the smallest bowl is on the tallest foot, and then there's a medium bowl as well. So this is something to think about. You could actually build something and then get it up into space on one or perhaps even a tripod kind of format. This was a lovely composition as well. This is tea with some peanuts, and you can see that it's on a little celadon perforated plate, whose purpose is if you spill the tea, it goes underneath and keeps everything dry. And I also like this idea that you can make a composition using other materials, in this case, an antique serving tray and a little branch. Now, this is an important one. This one kind of works, so I'm not going to get too crazy about this, but I think there are some examples I'll show you where I think this went astray. But here you can see a very sophisticated sculptural presentation of a dragon, a kind of a dragon boat. And I think they did a great job with banana leaves and making these kind of wrapped dumplings. Using the three and not overdoing it. But there's a problem sometimes where the sculpture begins to overwhelm the presentation. And here is that problem. I think you've got a mixture of fruit and nuts in this very interesting basket of where the handle is arms embracing, and you can see the head and the feet. And then the Buddha with lots of grapes, the Buddha with grapes, or as I called him, bubbles. He looked almost like a burlesque stripper or something with all those grapes in front of him. But I think, again, there's the sculptural qualities and the vessel qualities seem to be competing with one another. So that would be my take on those. This is really a nice one for hand builders to think about. In this case, what this artist did is took an oval slab and then took some little flaps, some little 4 or 5 little folded pieces and put them around the outside of half of that, and then folded the oval into a kind of taco form and just depressed it in the center to create a plate. And I think this is a construction idea that has lots of potential in deciding shapes and forms. And you can see, so I think it was a very inventive kind of form. Here is something that we saw a lot of, again, the orange colored foods on the beautiful kind of jade green, pale green celadon, very beautiful. And you can see, once again, a flower vase. You can see, again, the use of an antique tray to create a compositional frame of everything. The plates themselves have a lot of decal decoration on them. And of course, who doesn't like a nice crab? So it was beautiful. By the way, as a side note, we were told we could, while we were judging, we could taste any of the food that we wanted to as part of the judging process. And there were lots of pieces of food that I wanted to taste, but there just wasn't time. And I thought, well, after the judging, I'll try some of this food. But after the pieces were judged, they were taken down off the stage, and they never got quite down to the ground before there was just a mob of kids that ate everything off the plates as they left the stage. So I never tasted any of the food. Here's a lovely composition, and this one is done. This is something you could do as well. You make your form, and you might want to try it with a white clay, or you could use a dark clay, and then this kind of beading is done by just dabbing or dripping a exact spot, little polka dots of slip. And since slip is liquid clay, as it dries, it forms, it takes a physical form. It actually has shape and form. So making these kind of blue pearl necklaces or kind of shapes all the way around the piece is a nice way of working. This was this person's style. Something of note, in Jingdezhen, there is so much division of labor that it is possible for an artist like this to purchase all the forms slip cast in advance. So they didn't make this teapot. This is a classic little teapot that they could buy for very little money, and then they decorate it and fire it, and then they sell it for a lot more. These were interesting pieces. I like these very much. I don't think they might have gotten an honorable mention. They might have gotten third place. I can't remember, but you can see what they are. They're slip cast forms with a kind of sculpted stone-like surround that kind of lifts up, this kind of lovely floating above the ground central base. And then in the center, you can just barely make out there's a celadon sea, a little lake of celadon that's quite beautiful. And then the surrounds are stained porcelain, quite lovely. And my favorite were these cups. I really like these cups. I really should have, I would have loved to have purchased a few of them. I don't think I got around to it. I know I didn't. But celadon on the inside and the lip, and then the stone kind of quality at the bottom. And then again, look at that, kind of water lily form in the cup in the lower right-hand corner. Beautiful, beautiful piece. This was a good concept. I don't know that it quite was pulled off, but these are almost textiles in a way. They're ornamented, painted textiles. I think they are textiles. And then the person took them and used them as serving trays for these deviled eggs, which they turned into little sailing ships. So it was a nice concept, kind of on the waves, the ships on the waves. But again, maybe not strong enough visually to place in the competition. Here's something that occurred on occasion. These are tofu cakes on a celadon plate, and then why not put a sculpture on the plate? And that to me was just gratuitous. I mean, I'm a sculptor, I love sculpture, but I felt that they didn't integrate, they didn't relate to each other. I know enough not to freak out about the fact that there's a rat sitting on top of that dragon-like fish character. I know that that there are things like, I think when we were there, it was the year of the rat. And I think that was part of the reason for selecting this image, is to keep in that theme. But, you know, so I got some beautiful food, and here's a sculpture. I'll put that on the plate too. I didn't quite make, I don't think it carried off well. This is a lovely composition. And some very creative food carving here. You see to the left, there's a little wood-fired vase with again a little leaf arrangement. And then to the lower left hand, there's these beautiful little slab folded cups, which I thought were the little teacups that were beautiful. And then the carving of the carrot and the slicing of the corn cobs were really smart ideas. Then there were the chicken wings all surrounded, and then the broccoli tree growing up in the center. So nice composition. And then from the point of view of the ceramics, I love when you can do this. So you throw a beautiful plate, and then the last thing they did was they took a little bit of clay and they attached it to one point and pushed it in. And when you make an indentation like that on a beautifully thrown form that's round, what happens as you bend it, the line of the curve, all of that bends inward to follow the form. And I think that's a beautiful example. That's just a nice way to manipulate a thrown form. Very subtle, very simple. And we'll see an example of that both here, and I think there's one coming up. So you can see a better look at the vase and the cups. And this, again, every judge has their own thinking. Again, this artist just purchased the porcelain pieces and then decorated them. Quite a common practice in Jingdezhen, there's mass production of forms, and you can just buy them and decorate them and make that your statement. These sky blue with clouds, it's clearly a signature kind of idea. I was impressed with the kind of the bread dumplings filled with some kind of green leafy paste. The food looked great. I like that grid composition, but I found the blue sky clouds thing to be just a tad too cliche for my taste. And this was one of my favorites here. I think I have a close-up of this. This I think also placed. And what I liked about this is there's a central image. There are these little cakes or I don't know, fish things. I don't know exactly what they were. I didn't get to taste them. And they're little ornamental pimento and some sprinkled things. All of it in these lovely little cups. The celadon blue cups with a central cup of a contrasting glaze, and all of it in this extraordinary lacquered antique box that really works out well, and then beautifully presented on a mat with a little bit of greenery. Really a lovely presentation. I thought it was very successful. And one of the things I really liked is that each of the cups had a presentation. I think I have a close-up here. No, maybe I missed it. Yeah, each of the cups has a separate composition of the two little cakes and the pimento, and I like the fact that they varied it all the way around. Here, now this was central when it started, and then when they brought it up on the stage, somebody tipped the plate and everything slid to the left. So that's not, but there's no points taken off for that. Heart-shaped carrots and these lovely little stacks of vegetables. And this was a presentation. Here, these pieces, quite lovely. Again, the food is extraordinary. In this case, these dumplings, that peach colored dumpling looks just like a peach, it's beautiful. And these plates are made with a slip trailing where liquid slip is put into a bulb and then very beautifully kind of scrolled around into these spirals. And in a case like this, the uniformity of these pieces tells me that they made one, they got it just right, and then they had molds made of that one. So these are slip cast plates with a celadon and some great food on them. I was hoping to show you this. So here, these bowls are thrown with a rim, with a pronounced rim that is folded over. And then this might be fun to try on the wheel, just to take a look at it. And then with one finger, while the piece is still very wet, the rim is pushed inward to create that really dynamic alteration in the circle. Beautiful, I think, makes it really exciting as a form. And then the composition is quite great, a 9-square grid on, of all things, saltine crackers with shrimp and rice and some other things. So lovely compositions all the way around. So now we're leaving, this is the last slide from the Jingdezhen food and composing food on clay competition. And now we're moving to a new realm, which is Kaiseki. And Kaiseki, we're shifting from China to Japan, and Kaiseki is the food specifically created and designed and developed over 600 years of Japanese tea ceremony. It is originally the food meant to be served during a tea ceremony, and the ceremony emphasizes a sort of, it's all about celebrating beauty in the present moment. So the food not only has to be fresh and delicious, and the ceramics has to be beautiful and meaningful, but everything has to be, the food itself, its composition has to be beautiful. So Kaiseki is really the height of composition. And take a look at this, such a simple dish that would be fun to make. I've made some of these. You just take a square of clay, put 4 slices in, and then fold it up into this form. I'd suggest you give that a try. And one of the things you'll notice in Kaiseki consistently is that they don't fill it. They don't have the hor vacui approach very often. It's really more about lots of clay visible, and then just an elegant little composition of food. Here again, a large wood-fired platter with 5 different elements or 6 of food. Look at that little asparagus encrusted with nuts, little tiny crabs, some herring, just lots of beautiful things, some salmon eggs, all presented. This one's a little out of focus, but a little fish. Again, notice that there's lots of room, space for the clay to express itself along with the food. Here, again, the food is very carefully composed, crafted, and arranged inside the ceramics. And there actually is very little clay here. You can see actually the chopstick holder, I think, is the only piece of clay here in this composition. Here again, there's glass and bamboo, but you could see all of these are available compositions. You could make a trough like that out of clay for the edamame. Very beautiful composition. This, I think, is almost going too far. Look at this extraordinary platter made out of wood, not clay, and then all the little ceramic containers. What this is this is a full meal for 3 people. And so there are 4 different dishes all held on this platter with a bonsai tree. And here is something boy, if you've never had, if you can find a place that makes tempura in the traditional style in Japan, if you go to a very good tempura restaurant, you'll sit at the bar in front of the chef, and he will actually cook the tempura right in front of you and put it on the plate in front of you on a little piece of paper to absorb any extra oil, and then he'll go through a setting of maybe 6 to 10 different items that he'll cook in each individual one, and then everybody gets one of those, and then everybody gets the next thing, and it's quite lovely. And here you have the ceramics, and then a bamboo basket on top of the ceramic plate. All of this on a red wooden lacquered tray. Lovely composition. Here you can see the kind of bento box where you make 4 separate compositions on the left, and then a big leaf, yellow leaf platter on the right. Get a little close up on that bento box composition. And while this is glass on the left, this big white veined piece, you could very well see doing this in ceramics, where you would throw a bowl or coil a bowl or somehow hand build a bowl, and then tip it up and make the side its stand so that it would be at an angle. Quite a lovely idea. Now I'm going to show you some examples. So we've seen the Jingdezhen food and clay composition. We've seen some kaiseki from Japanese tea ceremony. And now we're going to go back, 10 years now, to some students' compositions of food presented. So these are some student challenging some approaches to this assignment, and we'll look at some of these close up. This is a remarkable piece. This student loved the movie Mars Attack, and she just said right out, that's what I'm going to do for my composition. And I had no idea how she was going to do it. And she did this. It's not the best display. We hung it up on a cabinet, but you can see she's superimposed the poster for Mars Attack, the movie, on this thing, and then she sculpted those hands that attach them and then put the food in the hands. Here is a piece that I sometimes will enjoy joining in on this, and so this is and when I do, I always go big. And this is a lidded jar with a boat in a cradle, which is an image I use a lot. And in this case, the boat has asparagus coming out of the bow and the stern, and then inside are stuffed mushrooms with olives and tomatoes on top of them. And so that's the start of it. And then you can lift the boat off, lift the lid off, and the bottom is filled with after dinner mince. So that whole container is filled with after dinner mince. See another view of it from the other side. A little bit from above. Here is a lovely composition with asparagus and using prosciutto as flowers in this tree or bush. Now, sometimes I'll get a student who has reached the end of the semester and hasn't really taken the time to compose something for, where they've planned the food they're going to bring and the plate they're going to bring, and they're stuck because they haven't. But what I say is, look, you've made some things. You just have to figure out if they're small and not so attention grabbing. You have to figure out how to create food that will complete the composition to make them stand out. And so here's some examples of that. These were ravioli assignments. They made these in the 3 ravioli assignment approach. And then so from fruit pops to cake pops in these. Here is a beautiful kind of cake stand, and in this case, caramel and apple slices was the food presented. I love this because the bowl itself, the undulations and scalloping of the bowl reflects the leafy green element. And then right in the middle, this is just 1 scoop of mashed potatoes. And that's as it should be, I think. This is a perfect presentation of that 1 scoop of mashed potatoes. And you could see a dinner party with 10 of these maybe being served to each individual. Here, a beet salad with some chives cut in diamond shapes on a beautiful platter. And that's, I will demonstrate that on the wheel. That's a platter thrown on the wheel. And I'll show you how to do that. Here, what you can see is another one of these students that was stuck with not having a piece that they could use. And so they had to find a piece and make it work. And this was, again, another ravioli pot. Here was a lovely kind of stuffed sandwich, kind of, these sandwiches were made by stuffing sections of baguette, and the platter was designed on the concept of angel wings. This is another serving platter, and I will demonstrate this. As I say, this is throwing on the wheel to make a rectangular platter, and I'll show you how that's done. Here, a very beautiful but simple composition of spanakopita or taropita, I believe is what they're called, these triangular spinach and cheese pastries wrapped in phyllo dough on a lovely kind of temaku and stoneware blue platter. This is that hora vacui that fill it all up with a radial design here, these kind of potato dumplings. And of course, when in doubt, fill it with really good candy. This is C's candy in a lovely rectangular platter with some nice greenery. This was really quite a wonderful piece here. This is a bowl that this artist made, in part inspired by the examples that I showed of the little dots of slip and then that spiral pattern. And this artist was also a maker of fine truffle candies. And so she made a truffle of a certain, she knew it was going to have these orange dots. And so she really created this with the spiraling lines of center, visual center, put the one truffle candy there. And then the decoration of the truffle and the bowl were identical. Here's a lovely piece. This is a zebra patterned platter with a dessert cake. If you can see here, it's a layered, elegant dessert cake. And again, the composition is such that there's plenty of room for the platter to be seen and appreciated. And it was a companion piece. It came with this. So there's the zebras, the zebra cookie, the decorated zebra cookies on a beautiful orange platter with some leaves. And here again, using that idea of three, a lovely blue glaze, and contrasting it with the orange of the salmon on some slices of baguette with sour cream. Lovely, lovely food, lovely platter, simple, direct, nicely composed. Here again is one of the compositions possible when you do these elongated platters. I did say, and I still mean, I will show you how to make these. Here is a beautiful open slab dish with a salad. Another. This one, I believe, is coil built. So as we wrap up this presentation, I thought it might be nice to take a look at a rather unique artist. Red Hong Yi takes food and makes compositions on simple porcelain white plates. And it's not about the ceramics so much as the composition itself. So here you can see what he's done with cucumber. A little farm scene. Here, tulips in kind of I don't know if it's a Dutch or Danish image. And I love the clouds being made out of mashed potatoes. Here is a dragon fruit, using the seeds from the dragon fruit to actually recreate St. George and the dragon. And here is an owl made from pearl onions. And this is a mother and child image here. The hen, the chick, and the son made out of a slice of egg. Quite humorous. And this is the recreation of a famous Japanese woodblock print made with rice and seaweed. And that is our presentation. So what I would encourage you to do is to really enjoy yourself with this. Really take a moment or several moments, and don't, if you don't have to just make one thing. You can start looking at recipes. You can start imagining what the two would be. And I think the best results come from picking a food that is very visual, that will allow you to make some kind of extraordinary three-dimensional statement with your ceramics. And I wish you the best of luck, and I can't wait to both taste visually and actually your contribution to our final potluck, which will be your final assignment. So stay safe and make art. And